Spoiler warning, this breakdown is going to spoil the entirety of the stage show. If you have a chance to go and see the show and have not done so yet, please do not watch this video. The show is only in London, England right now, but it's been a total sellout and I have no doubt it will travel to other countries in the future. This video is for people who have either seen the show or won't ever manage to see it, and is just a summarised recap. It will not compare to seeing the real thing. I won't take it personally if you click off right now. Still here? Then let's get into it. The show opens with a screen showing redacted files about the Philadelphia experiment and a creepy voiceover announcing that the following file is classified under Executive Order 9066. Executive Order 9066 was signed the year before the Philadelphia experiment allegedly took place and was supposedly designed to prevent any and all persons from areas of the United States designated as military areas, but was basically used to throw everyone of Japanese descent, whether born and raised in America or not, into concentration camps. Which makes its use here a choice.
What the fuck?
The Philadelphia experiment, for those unfamiliar, was a secret government experiment into invisibility. Also known as Project Rainbow, it was said to have been using Einstein's work on unified field theory to turn warships invisible to radar. Which all sounds very plausible so far. However, this is where the legend takes a turn. According to a man who claimed to have witnessed the event, when the experiment started, a green fog surrounded the ship and then it blipped out of sight entirely. Not just invisible to radar, but to the human eye. Only it wasn't invisible, it had somehow been teleported all the way to Norfolk, Virginia, before returning a short while later. It was claimed that the returned crew members aboard the Eldridge had gone insane. Some of them were frozen in place and others had become fused with the metal of the ship itself. The ship on the stage in the first shadow is named the USS Eldridge. The captain talks about how he's missing his son's birthday. His name is Captain Brenner. The experiment begins and all hell breaks loose. There's loud interference type noises, flashing lights, smoke, and sailors screaming that there's something in the water. There's a crashing noise and then we see the ship on stage in what looks like the place from this scene in season 4. The Stranger Things credits play and I witnessed something I have never seen in all my years of theatre going. A crowd giving a standing ovation before the show had even properly begun. Welcome to Hawkins, October 1st, 1959. Bob the Brain Newbie is giving his morning radio broadcast. He mentions UFOs, the new Twilight Zone show, and the auditions for the Hawkins High School play. Then we move to Joyce and her boyfriend Lonnie. Joyce is going to be late for school, and Lonnie is 25 years old. Gross. As she's getting ready, Lonnie finds Joyce's application to the Greater Indiana Arts Scholarship. Lonnie is outraged, accusing Joyce of thinking she's better than him, to which she replies, "I am."
Good for her.
Next, we are introduced to James Hopper Jr., who hates the junior part of his name, is trying to fix his car, and has an abusive piece of shit for a father. And then quietly, lurking behind the rest of his family, the star of the show arrives, Henry Creel. In a scene pretty much beat for beat the same as the show, they move into their new home in Hawkins. And just as we see Henry for the first time, Bob's radio equipment starts shorting out. I've got a comment on the stagecraft of the show here. There's multiple levels, a rotating centre, several screens, moving rooms, and really does feel like we are watching a show or a movie with montages that blend into each other and hard cuts between scenes. The behind the scenes crew of this production deserve all of the awards. At the newbie house we meet Bob's adopted sister, Patricia, or Patty, and his father, the principal of the high school, who does not seem like a super chill guy. Principal Asshat berates Patty for having a comic book and tells her to go and pray, which she does, to Wonder Woman. As she's praying, Henry is in his attic listening to the radio. Patty wishes she were normal. She says she's lonely, and Henry says it at the exact same time. He can hear her, and his voice is coming through her radio faintly. Henry arrives at Hawkins High for his first day and we get massive exposition dump from a character named Walt Henderson. During the play I was heavily hoping that this wasn't Dustin's father because he is a grade A asshole. However, as his girlfriend of the show is named Claudia, which is Dustin's mum's name, and his last name is Henderson, I've had to accept that this little lovely came from a racist douchebag father. We also see Charles Sinclair and Sue Henderson, Lucas and Erica's future parents, Ted Wheeler and Karen Childress, who go on to parent Nancy, Mike, and the almost forgotten Holly. There's a boy named Alan Munson who might be Eddie's father. Given the small size of Hawkins, he's a relative of Eddie's at the very least. Walt also mentioned that Bob's mum ran away with Ted's dad. Oof. After finishing the info dump tour of the school, he turns to Henry and asks what kind of person he is. Says he heard that he broke a kid's arm at his last school and it's some kind of psycho. really gets in his face in the classic way TV and movie bullies do. Henry starts having body convulsions and all the lights flicker. Patty Newby comes to Henry's rescue and telling Walt to leave him alone. Walt cruelly refers to her as the little foundling girl from nowhere. Patty makes a quip back about Walt having made out with his cousin. So we've got bully, racism, which comes a little bit later on, and a little bit of incest going on with Dustin's dad. Thanks. I hate it. Patty helps Henry with his locker and notices that he has a Captain Midnight cipher. That's when young Henry does the most ridiculous salute. It's like a half salute, half skip of the spot. I've searched for a reference to see where it came from, and I can't find any member of Captain Midnight's secret squadron doing it in the TV show clips available online. But trust me, it is the cutest, as are Patty and Henry bonding over their geeky interests. He tries to be cool and flirt with her, and I did not expect to ever describe the future Vecna as adorable, but that is what he is during the early scenes of this play. He's just a lonely boy who wants to have friends and be normal. His mum has taught him to chant,
"I'm Henry Creel. I'm normal,"
whenever he hears voices in his head. Later in the play, he overhears his parents arguing about him. His mum says that he shouldn't be in school, that he's not normal, and that the poor boy from the other school is in a wheelchair now. This combined with a move to an all-new town and his father's alcoholism, Henry Creel would have a lot going on even if he couldn't hear voices, and it's not difficult to forget the monster he later becomes. Watching this story, he had my full sympathy. All of the awards for Louis McCartney. Auditions for Joyce's play begin, and Christopher Buckley, who plays young Bob, is hilarious in these scenes. Trying to be sexy and scary. In fact, he's a delight every time he's on stage. Patty and Henry both accidentally end up at the audition, and Joyce casts them as the leads. Walt protests the casting choice, saying that Patty can't be the lead because she's not really American. He refers to her as mystery meat, and Charles Sinclair shuts him up. And just for the record, Patty Newby, played by Ella Karuna Williams, sings like an angel and could be the lead in any play, any day. Back in his attic that night, overhearing the argument between his parents I mentioned earlier, Henry starts to convulse again, and we get this cool effect on stage. He's in what I think is called the void, or the place in between. It's the dark, wet place Eleven goes when she's watching people. Things begin to echo and there are demogorgon noises. A mist shadow appears, and Henry is playful with it at first, asking who it is and what it wants. Then he sees Walt at the Henderson family liquor store. He's with his girlfriend Claudia and they're looking for their cat. Seeing that the cat is safe in the shop, they go off to catch a movie, and Henry, who had met the cat at school earlier, goes to talk to it. Henry plays with the cat, but it starts to get intense. His voice changes. It goes from being a normal kid's voice to the deep Vecna type voice as he repeatedly says, "Don't be scared." The cat floats up into the air and you know what happens next. My girl Claudia is not having the greatest of luck with cats. Young Henry thinks that it must have been a nightmare when his mum comes to fetch him for church. He's been in the void all night and hadn't realised. Time had either simply gotten away from him, or he had lost time because the shadow had taken him over. At the church, we see Principal Newby yet again verbally abusing his daughter. Claudia is handing out flyers about her missing cat. She's convinced witches killed the cat because, sure, and is offering a $100 reward for information. According to Google, that's the equivalent of around $1,000 in 2024 money. Henry starts chanting to himself that the events of last night were not real and runs off to hide in the confessional. Hopper hears about the reward and realises he can use the money to fix his car and recruits Bob onto his makeshift investigative team. Whenever Bob is talking to Hopper, he sticks his chest out and does his fake, deep, badass voice to seem cool, and it didn't fail to make me chuckle once. Patty finds Henry hiding and they talk about the voices he hears coming out of his radio. She quips that voices are supposed to come out of the radio and not quite getting it. Side note, there's actually a lot of humour in the play, but me retelling the jokes of this recap won't really translate that well. Henry confides in Patty that he hates his mum and he can make nightmares come true. To which pure, wholesome cinnamon roll Patty points out that if he controls the dreams, then he can control if they are nice or not. Henry had not thought to use his emerging powers in a positive way before this point. Patricia Newby really does say, "I can fix him" in the show. Patty takes her turn telling Henry about her problems, how everyone else seems pretty and normal and she's a mystery who doesn't know where she's from. Henry responds with a list of cool superheroes who are orphans, tells her that Mystery Meat could be her superpower name and he could be her sidekick. Meatball, Patty suggests. Worst sidekick name ever. The choir performance is about to start, so they begin to part, but then he asks, what would she sing if she could choose? Tells her to close her eyes and dream about it. She starts to sing, "Stars shining bright above you," Henry takes control of everyone in the church, makes it like a Vegas show from Patty's dreams. It's a full-scale song and dance number with Patty's robes transforming into a Wonder Woman suit. This is played as a fun moment in the show, but it's actually a terrifying display of power. He mind controls an entire church full of people, or does he just make it happen in her head? Henry's mum spots him and chastises him for being alone with another child, tells him it's best he doesn't have any friends, and drags his ass home early. -10 parenting points to Victoria Creel. We move to a scene where Bob is telling Hopper that 5 pets have now disappeared in Hawkins over the past 9 days. Hop thinks it's too much meat for a lynx to have eaten, meaning the cops' working theory that these have been animal attacks is wrong, so they dig up Claudia's cat looking for clues. Hopper holds the cat up so Bob can take pictures, spilling mud all over Bob and then dropping the dead cat right on his face, which is hilarious, till they realise the cat has no eyeballs. They also realise that everyone who has lost a pet is connected to the school play, so Hop decides he has to infiltrate the cast to investigate. Joyce casts Hopper as the bad guy, gives him his lines and tells him just to be himself, which is very on brand for these two. Hopper questions Henry, but dismisses him as not having the upper body strength to commit the crime, tells him he's a creepy guy. Henry runs to the bathroom saying he's not a creepy guy, he's normal. His reflection cracks in the mirror, the electrics start flickering, he has another fit. Patty enters the bathroom. She talks to him about killing the cat. She knows. She says she knows about all of them, but she knows there's going to be more. You're going to hurt things. You're going to kill me, aren't you? Henry says no. He's really disturbed, crying and sputtering. He says he would never hurt her. You're going to kill a lot of things, she says, as more glass smashes and electrical sparks fly. Patty starts brushing her hair in the mirror, but is pulling lumps of it out and has a hideous burnt Freddy Krueger looking head underneath. Henry pleads with whatever is tormenting him, says he can get more, kill more animals if it wants, to just leave Patty alone. Then actual Patty comes into the bathroom and none of the mirrors are smashed. The show uses hidden digital screens and doubles so well that you don't notice the changes and can't entirely spot how the effects are done in places. It's absolutely excellent. Patty takes Henry to rehearse the kissing scene, but he's freaking out in front of everyone, telling her to stay away from him. His voice does the deep Vecna echo. There's loud static sounds and the lights are flickering. Henry tells Patty to stay away from him, that she's not safe, and if she stays with him, she'll die. Everyone is confused but mesmerised by what they think is the two acting. Patty says he's not bad, that she's always been the girl from nowhere, but for the first time she felt connected meeting him. I'm not normal. There's something wrong with me, he says, crying. That's when Ella Karina Williams delivers for me the best line of the play. Of course you're not normal, but why does that have to be wrong? Just a beautiful sentiment and a huge part of the Stranger Things ethos. She continues, what if the thing that you hate about yourself isn't a curse or a blessing? I'm not scared. Kiss me. Light bulbs explode as they kiss and Joyce announces that the play is going to be amazing. Just a little sidebar here. I've seen people online big mad that Henry has a crush/relationship with a girl in the stage show, thinking that the Henry times Patty storyline erases what they thought was a homosexually coded character on the Netflix show, and I'm here to let them in on a little secret. People can be bi. Yep, bisexuality exists, and liking a girl when you're 13 also does not prevent you from being into dudes, or vice versa. Hope this helps. The gang from the play go out to celebrate. Hopper questions Munson but finds out that his dog has been killed, along with Ted's hedgehog. Patty and Henry are having a cute wee date and she asks him if he thinks this is what normal people feel like at all times. I want nothing but good things for his fictional child. It stops being cute and Henry says he knows so-called normal people don't feel like this because he can hear their thoughts. He starts pointing out who is depressed and what they all really think of each other. He hears them all the time, and that must be hell for him. Look at him, he's just a little guy. He can't handle the thoughts of an entire town at all times. Patty misses the red flag that he's clearly struggling mentally, which she gets a pass on because she's either 13 or 14, but realises that Henry might be able to listen to her mum and find her. It goes back to being cute when they arrange for an attic date to try and find her. They have adorable first date energy and get in trouble for kissing from the bartender. Bob is at the other side of the bar trying to confess his love for Joyce, but Hopper interrupts him to clue him in about the additional animal deaths. Poor Bob. The times of the animal deaths match the times there have been interference on Bob's radio broadcasts. He's read about this, theorising that sonic soundwave technology could be being used to kill the animals. Joyce hears them and says they should tell Hop's dad, but Hop points out that she's meant to be putting on a showing of Oklahoma for a school play, has instead swapped it out for a more risky show, and if they go to the cops that she'll be busted because every pet owner is in her play. So Joyce joins their investigation. During their little back and forth, Hopper calls the scholarship she is aiming for the Greater Indiana Nerd Rescue Scholarship, and says she'll be stuck here in Hawkins without it just like everyone else. forever. Henry arrives home to his mother in his safe space, the attic. She tells him not to see Patty again, slaps him, and says he needs help. Henry shouts, "You can't tell us what to do." Mrs. Creel says she is doing this to protect him and everyone, and she loves him. His crying turns into a high-pitched, creepy laugh. Says she can't protect anyone because she can't even protect herself. Like when she was little and her father would lock her in the closet and the spiders would come. At this point, Henry's jars of spiders open and they begin crawling over the stage, up the walls and onto Virginia. The special effects work once again is stunning as we see spiders crawling over the actress. He continues to taunt his mother.
"You couldn't even scream. Do you know why? I do. You were too afraid. The fear had already taken root. And it's been eating you for years. Where's your sweet little boy now?"
Shouts as she runs away. The body movements Louis makes here as he has these convulsions and mini-fits while Henry vies for control of his own body are sometimes painful to watch but really sell the inner battle he is fighting. After his mum flees the attic, he is stood there singing, "You belong to me," creepily to himself when his little sister appears and asks,
"Where's Henry?" "He's right here." "You're not Henry. You're not him." He tells her to run.
Back with our fave trio, Bob reveals his directional antenna device, or DAD for short, and they start trying to track the interference. They stumble around trying to make the device work. Chopper dish out their usual flirty banter whilst poor Bob is stuck in the middle, pretty oblivious to their chemistry. Patty arrives at the Creel house and suggests they could just have a normal date, listen to the radio maybe, but Henry pushes ahead with a plan and lays down the rules. No matter what, she must listen to him and try not to let it know she's afraid. Patty, girl, run. Henry begins to tell her what happened in Nevada, and we cut to a PTA meeting. Terrible father, Chief Hopper, is going to implement a curfew to try and protect everyone from the lynx he thinks is killing the pets. Victor Creel and Principal Newby strike up a conversation. Victor's drunk, talking about how Virginia has taken Alice and left. "Solid plan, Virginia. You should have stayed gone, girl." Tells Newby how Henry is a good boy, really, and spills that he and Patty have been dating. Her dad is horrified at this revelation and heads to the Creel house to get Patty away from Henry. He's an asshole, but his instincts here are correct. We overlap between Victor describing his nightmares and Henry and Patty in the attic. Victor is standing on the stage and the youngsters are on an elevated section above him, so we can see what is happening in both places. That is, if you paid for the good seats. My cheap ass was sat at the back trying to angle to see what was going on. Patty complains that the attic is freezing and Henry says, "I like it cold."
He said it! He said it!
This is the scene where the stage trickery really pays off. We have Patty and Henry in the elevated section, Victor Creel and Mr. Newby heading towards the stairs, and the trio arrive with their dad machine having tracked the signal down. Victor starts freaking out and it seems like Henry is playing war flashbacks in his head to stop him from coming up the stairs. Newby is heading up to the attic just as Henry finds Patty's mum. He thinks he is talking to the mother but is actually the sinister entity trying to take him over. He screams for Patty to get out, that it is coming and that it wants her. Patty's dad finds him in the attic and Henry screams in his double Vecna-like voices
"That she's ours."
The vines appear and lift Henry up just like they do in his attic in season 4. Mr. Newby's bones start cracking and Patty screams for Henry to stop. Hopper breaks the iconic stained glass window of the house to get the trio inside. All the power goes out and Hawk, Joyce and Bob's mini version of the Scooby Gang have to wander around the house with flashlights shouting to see if anyone is home. That is when Victor Creel steps out of the dark in between them with the torchlight, jump scaring the characters and the audience. My soul straight up left my body for several seconds. Upstairs, Patty is telling Henry he can make his nightmare a nice dream. He just needs to imagine it. It works, and he imagines he and her outside Melvid's after they got thrown out for kissing, and it starts to snow. He wishes he could stop it all. She says he can, that she loves him, tells him to say it back, and he manages to snap out with a double voice for a brief moment to say he loves her too. Bob finds his father and screams, "Jesus, his eyes!" Joyce moves to give him CPR, but he sits up screaming because the audience hadn't had a big enough fright from the jump scare a few minutes ago apparently. I was not okay. A new scene has Henry in bed, sadly saying to himself that he's not a freak, that he's normal, he's Henry Creel. Figures in white hazmat suits enter the auditorium from every door, scanning things of the audience heading onto the stage. One lingers. Virginia is singing the "I Know You Belong to Me" song. Somebody in the comments please tell me what the song is because it's really bugging me. She explains to Henry that she knows it's been hard for him. Explains she's brought a doctor from Nevada. The figure who lingered removes his helmet and says, "Hello Henry, I'm Dr. Brenner. I'm here to help."
So that was a fucking lie.
Patrick Vale absolutely nails the Brenner voice. If you had told me that I was somehow a young Matthew Modine on that stage, I would have believed you. And that is the end of Act 1. Act 2 begins with Henry imprisoned in the lab. Brenner is questioning him, and there's a lab tech with a mouse or a hamster on a wheel in a cage. Henry says Brenner can't fix him. Other shrinks have tried. He laughs and says he's not a psychiatrist, which was the first time I've ever actually wondered what kind of doctor Brenner is. What are this man's credentials? They discuss when Henry went missing in the Nevada desert. He disappeared near some caves and was gone for 12 hours. Brenner continues to berate Henry and try to get him to use his powers. Brenner says he's been sloppy with all the animals and even killed his own family pet rabbit, thinks he wanted to be caught and accuses him of liking it. Tells him he's not special, screams in his face, and that's when the hamster or mouse in the cage explodes. Brenner's response to this is, "Very good, Henry. Very good indeed." Hopper tells Joyce that he talked to Hawkins' power and there was no record of electrical faults. There's a cover-up at hand because they are saying Principal Newby just fell through the floor. Joyce insists they should go to the cops, but Hopper asks her to run away with him instead. He fixed the car 2 weeks ago. He didn't need the reward money to fix the car, he just wanted to prove he wasn't a screw-up. But now he doesn't care anymore. He just wants to run away with Joyce. Says they could just get in and go. Drive straight to Mexico. Joyce says she's been waiting her whole life for someone to say that to her, that she's always wanted to go to Mexico. He replies he's always wanted to take her. I would have been fine with them leaving right there in the play ending, to be honest. But she thinks about it and stays because this is bigger than just them, and they go to see Hop's dad. Joyce explains her theory that Victor Creel killed the animals and tried to kill Mr. Newby to Chief Hopper, and whips out a diagnostic and statistical manual of mental health disorders, and the book The Mask of Sanity, to back up her theories, but accidentally takes out her copy of the Communist Manifesto in 1950s America. So if Chief Hopper was going to listen to her before that, he wasn't going to listen to her after it. Hopper Jr. sticks up for Joyce to his dad, but that also seems to make things worse. Senior says he expects idiocy from Jr., but expected Joyce would be too busy juggling half the boys in town. At this blatant attempt to slut-shame Joyce, Hopper makes the "I'm gonna kick the shit out of you" face. And I truly believe Oscar Lloyd was fully taken over by the spirit of David Harbour here. It was just perfect and peak Hopper. And he starts a brawl, calling his dad a joke and a scared little boy. The entire station erupts into a Keystone Cop style farce of a fight, the rotating stage being used to great effect. As they leave the police station, Lonnie is laid out, handcuffed to a bench. Bob and Patty go to visit their dad in the hospital, and she tells her big brother that she's scared. Says she's being watched, but won't tell Bob by whom. Chopper arrives to hatch a plan with Bob, and they come up with the sort of plan only a group of high school kids could come up with. They're going to lure Victor to the school play and trick him into confessing. That way, Joyce gets her scholarship, Hop gets the reward money glory, and they catch the bad guy. It's a little over the top, but this is a story about kids, so yeah, let's roll with it. Back in the hospital room, Mr. Newby wakes up and is in a bad way. He apologises to Patty, says he only adopted her to save his marriage and then punished her because his wife left him anyways. The thing that attacked him could sense his secrets, the bad things he had done, and came for him. Says it wasn't the boy, that the boy stopped it and thought it. He can draw it. He needs paper. He tells her,
"It wants you, Patty. It's coming for you."
He unwraps the bandages over his eyes, dips his fingers into the bloody socket sphere, and uses the blood to paint the mind flare the same way Will does in season 2. He's screaming,
"It wants more. You have to stop it, Patty. Find the boy, Patty. Save the boy."
In the lab, Brenner is telling Henry that he has a unique blood type, and that the feeling he gets when he kills isn't mental, it's physical. Somehow, he is absorbing the energy of the animals, and it makes him stronger. Brenner talks about his father on the USS Eldridge, about how his father's blood also changed after his ship was transported to another dimension and back. This is why he has dedicated his life to this project. As Brenner is monologuing like a Bond villain, the TV screens behind him show flashes of the story he is telling. In Nevada, Henry went missing at the same time a scientist stole something dangerous and was found dead near the caves where Henry was exploring. Brenner shows Henry a container and asks if Henry has seen it before. Henry denies it. Brenner tells Henry he has something extra now, something from beyond this world. When the container is opened, it has Henry's Captain Midnight spyglass in it, and Brenner asks what happened when he lost it. The screens behind them start showing what looks like the Upside Down and images that might have been Demogorgons, couldn't quite see from a cheap seat. Brenner totally love bombs Henry and gets him to agree to open a doorway back to the place he went. At the start of these experiments, Henry decides to contact Patty and say goodbye and tell her he's sorry. He's resigned to his life in the lab, but Patty tells him to fight it. Henry tells her father's secret. He lied about her birth mother being unfit so that he could steal her. The monster told him,
"And the monster never lies because it doesn't have to."
As he's talking to her, his double voice comes back and he starts being nasty about her. He tells her to run again and she tells him to fight. She asks him to run away with her and find her mum and fight the monsters. They plan to run away using the school play as a distraction. Brenner brings in a death row inmate to Henry, has him behind two-way glass. He thinks that the test failed because Henry was not strong enough, so he's brought him a human to kill and absorb his power. Henry says killing the animals was different. He doesn't want to kill the man. Brenner says the only limit to Henry's powers is a lack of fuel, and sees this man's life as only that. Henry says he's leaving. Brenner screams and berates him again, winds him up and calls him a coward. Says he'll come crawling back because he wants to kill.
You can't outrun the shadow, Henry. You are the shadow!
Henry loses his temper and the inmate dies. Brenner goes flying through the roof. It's opening night at Hawkins High. Joyce is freaking out, Bob and Hopper are setting up their trap for Victor Creel, and trust Ted Wheeler to grab Victor and take him backstage for some reason. This part is mainly played for laughs, with Hopper darting back and forth either side of the room pretending to be two different people, one good cop, one bad, while his perp is tied to a chair with a bag over his head. He tries to get a confession, but it turns out Ted had grabbed Lonnie Byers instead because Ted Wheeler is a dumbass jock in this show. Cut to the Creel house. Alice asks why her brother is home, and her mother responds that they've decided he doesn't need to see his doctor anymore, he'll be comfier and safer with them. They're going to have a nice family meal, then go to the school show. She sounds upbeat and happy, but Alice asks why she's crying, so Henry is obviously making her say these things. We see the same dinner scene from season 4. Henry reads his mum's mind to see what she said to Brenner, and sees that she told him about Patty and made Brenner promise to lock him up and throw away the key. Then Henry floats her, just like in the show. You see a body on stage rise up and crack apart. Back to the play within the play, the power has gone out, so Joyce heads down to the creepy basement to try and get it back on, and runs into Henry, who is rapidly losing his battle against the shadow monster. It looks like Henry might hurt her when she says she knows what's been going on, and he doesn't have to pretend anymore. As Henry is getting angrier, the shadow of the wall behind him transforms from one of a small boy to the shape of Vecna and all his vines, just like on the posters. Then Henry realises that Joyce thinks his father is the murderer and calms somewhat. This would have been a really tense scene if we didn't know that Joyce was going to make it out of this story alive. Hopper has gone to the Creel house to try and find Victor, but instead finds his dad with the rest of the Hawkins cops taking away the dead bodies of Virginia and little Alice Creel. Henry is watching from the other place, walking through the scene, and pulls the sheet off of his mother's body slightly, revealing her hollowed out eye socket to the audience. Brenner arrives at the house and someone tells him that Henry was unconscious on a stretcher but then disappeared, and Brenner knows he'll be at the school. Patty is being put on ropes for the grand finale of the play up on a platform above the stage. Henry warns her and tells her to leave on the train to find her mum in Las Vegas, and unstraps her from the safety ropes. Brenner appears and tells Patty that Henry is sick, calls Henry a weapon, and says he's the property of the US government. He reveals that Henry killed his mother and sister, says that is who he really is. Patty is distraught. Henry tells her she makes him want to be better, but that he can't, that he's not normal. Patty begs him to fight it, and Brenner encourages him to give in to it, either side of Henry like the devil and angel on his shoulders. Then, Henry losing control causes the catwalk to fall and Patty to slide off of it. Joyce screams her name as she lies on the floor. Bob gives a small and emotional
Patty? Patty? And Joyce tells Bob, I am so sorry.
So she's dead, right? Then the screen is back showing headlines of Victor Creel's arrest, the murders of his family and the disappearance of Principal Newby's daughter. So she's not dead. Bob is back on the radio. It's December 25th, 1960. He doesn't sound as upbeat as usual. Hopper heads into Melvid's for a drink in his cop uniform. Joyce is a waitress there now. She also works weekends at Enzo's, and Lonnie is in between jobs, because of course he is. Joyce suggests they go for a drink, but Hopper is shipping out for army basic training the next day. Says he wants to go make something of himself, and Joyce says he already is something. They wish each other a Merry Christmas and part on a sad note of what could have been. This whole play is one half Vecna villain origin story, half the sad story of lost potential for the adults from the TV show. Bob sends out a song to a special someone, Wonder Woman, wherever she is. We see Patty with a walking stick finding her mum in Vegas. The lights flicker. He's still watching her. Brenner has Henry in the lab and says they've had 10 children survive the transfusion so far. Says Henry is as much a father of this family as him. Henry is strapped to a chair with a ball gag in his mouth, and Brenner says he's been such a good boy these last few years, and that it's time to help with the children. We see Henry take his place as Peter the orderly at the lab and meet a small 11. He tells her he's here to help, just like Brenner said to him. He starts singing the creepy song again, and then the play fucks with the audience one last time and flashes a Vecna up on the screen and flickers the lights in the theatre. This play is entirely fan service, but as I am the fan being serviced, I am fine with that. The show has all the ingredients of a masterpiece, the most amazing special effects I've ever seen on stage, an insanely talented cast that somehow reflects the original actors perfectly, whilst managing to make the roles their own, and impeccable stagecraft. The only problem is the foundation of the show itself, the writing. There's a lot of telling, not showing, and overall it felt like it just tried to do too much. Not to mention all the plot holes, which I will get into in my next video. We didn't need all the TV show parents beyond Hop, Joyce and Bob. Felt like they were mostly there for the audience to do the Leonardo DiCaprio point when they were on the stage. Claudia having her cat taken by a monster from the Upside Down twice was quite funny though, I'll give them that. But did we really need to see Karen, pre-Wheeler, used as comic relief with unkind jokes centred around her being a sexually confident young woman? I don't think we did. Seeing Hopper's father being abusive adds backstory to a main character. Dustin's dad being the racist, bully, spoiled rich kid of the piece doesn't feel to me like it added anything to the overall universe, but I could be wrong and it might play into something down the line. In the Netflix show, Henry is set up as the bad guy, the yin to Eleven's yang. This show, setting Henry up as just a troubled young boy who was taken over by the shadow monster, sort of ruined that for me. His story is basically what would have happened to Will in season 2 without his friends and family there to save him. Henry had nobody but Patty fight in his corner. Will had the party and his family. Pretty much from the moment they meet, the story is laying the groundwork for Henry to do something horrible to Patty. It seems to be building to him killing her being his final transition into the monster we know in the future. But instead of fridging her, she escapes with an injury and goes missing. It feels like the story was originally gonna have her not survive, but they decided to save her to maybe use her on the Netflix show. The advertising for this play states that it is a must-see for season 5, which is not true at all. If there's anything relevant to the season 5 story, it will be reiterated on screen. This play is just an expansion to this world, a little extra spectacle for the fans. And that is exactly what the show is. A spectacle. You see it for the experience, and if you're a fan of a show, that alone is worth it. But if you aren't a show fan, you'll get a flawed but still pretty good story that is elevated by the performances of the highly talented cast and amazing special effects. I took 3 hours with me to see this show. Because I was also paying for flights to London and a hotel stay, I chose the cheaper seats, which were £45. I visit the West End theatres quite regularly and I can usually get a cheap seat for around £20. I've even scored a few for as low as £10, so to pay £45 for seats with partially restricted views stung a lot. If Mini Hype wasn't such a huge fan of the show, I might have reconsidered buying them at all. Maybe the show is a much better experience from the better seats, but when I bought our tickets in the pre-sale, they were listed as £200 and I just couldn't justify that price. So the too long didn't read is, show is good, not great, effects and acting are amazing, you won't need to see it for season 5, expensive but worth it if you're a huge fan. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a like if you fancy. I've made another one with all the Easter eggs I spotted, plot holes and speculation on what this show means for season 5 of Stranger Things, which you can find here.